Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, talking here about what's happened to the American Family Association. And let's take your calls on what you think about how the military is treating the American Family Association. We've got some problems with our caller software, so I'm going to invite you to come on, but I'm going to need to have you give us your first name and then where you are calling from. All we need is your first name and where you're calling from. So let's grab the call on line 4. Welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Who am I talking to?
This is Rose from Virginia. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Rose. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes. I wanted to let you know that, we're having a governor's race here in Virginia.
Yes.
And there is an ad against the Republican who has Christian values. And it states that Brian Fisher and AFR and the Value Voters Conference that you just said is a hate group. And this is an ad.
Now, is this
I was livid when I saw it.
Is this specifically in the race with Cuccinelli and McAuliffe?
Yes, it is.
So it's not about Randy Forbes, not directed at Randy Forbes.
No, it's directed at Cuccinelli because he came out for Christian values, and they keep bringing up the different Christian values he has. But it says that he is for this hate group with Brian Fisher and AFR and the Value Voters Conference that you just had, has somebody's picture on it, and I don't know who that is.
So they mentioned my name in particular. Did they have any quotes from me or sound bites from me?
It just, there's some things that I know, and it's so quick to try to get it all, but there were a couple of things, and I'm sure they have it out of context like the previous caller.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right. And I appreciate the call, Rose. Thank you very much for that. They did the same thing with Randy Forbes, ran some commercials in his district demonizing the AFA and having some quotes from me that were taken out of context, and Ted, our last caller, a perfect example. That was a case where a woman's biological child was being sexually abused in the home of her former lesbian lover. A judge ordered the woman to give custody of her own biological daughter over to the ex-lesbian lover who was sexually abusing her daughter. And she did the thing that any responsible parent would do. You cannot turn your child over to an environment like that. You just cannot do it. No possible way. Well, she couldn't stay in the country, so she had to leave the country. A Mennonite pastor helped her to get to Honduras, I believe it was, or maybe Nicaragua, somewhere in Central America. He helped her to do it, and I commended him for it. That's what I meant by the Underground Railroad, just like you had the Underground Railroad in the days of the Civil War to get slaves looking for freedom. So we had a mom looking for safety and freedom for her own daughter to protect her from sexual abuse. So yes, indeed, I supported that. I think the mom did the only thing that she could have done. I commend this pastor. He got himself into legal trouble for doing it. But again, we must obey God rather than men. And that's a perfect example of that in action. So again, gives you an idea. When you take these quotes out of their context, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what the background was, where that quote came from. You don't know anything about that. And you grab that little statement in isolation out of its flow of thought, out of its contextual surroundings. You can make anybody. You can demonize anybody, and apparently that's what they're doing. Now, I haven't seen that ad in Virginia, but it doesn't surprise me that it would be happening. Now, thank you, Rose, for the call. And Ted, I really wanted to keep you on the line. If you want to call back, you were talking about the Underground Railroad. Ted, you were the one who called in about that and about the AFA calling for the arrest of Representative Colby back in 2000, which that was before my time, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. But, Ted, if you want to call back, we'll leave a line open for you. So, Ted, if you want to call back, I'd love to have an extended conversation with you, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. We'll leave a line open for Ted if you want to call back and resume our conversation. Let's go to the caller on line 2. Welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Who am I talking to, and where are you calling from?
Hello, Brian. This is Michael from Austin, Texas.
Okay, Michael, great. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
First of all, I will say, you go, boy. You know, it's kind of like the Bible. You can't just take one verse. You got to take the whole context. You got to read the whole thing.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And congratulations for being nationwide and being ads with you on it. I just that is tremendous. Brian, you know, you're talking about how the military is demonizing the Christians and all. You know, what I find fascinating is that as a veteran, they're not just demonizing the Christians, they're also demonizing their own veterans, because as soon as a person gets out of the military, regardless of whether it's honorable or otherwise, they instantly become focused as possible terrorists. So these same people that they're trying to destroy their morality and their more and just their frame of mind, then when they get out, then they turn around and then start calling them terrorists.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just insane. I don't know where this is all going to lead to, but it don't look pretty if it continues the way it's going.
Well, you know, and it is a really bizarre thing. You know, Janet Napolitano saying, look, these returning vets, they represent the greatest domestic terror threat that we've got. Evangelical groups, Catholic groups, these are the groups that are domestic terror groups. These are the groups that are domestic hate groups. These are the groups that we have to keep an eye on. These are the groups that we have to watch. And it's just, it's despicable. It's insulting. And further, it's dangerous, because returning vets don't represent a threat to our national security. Evangelical groups like the American Family Association, FRC, they don't represent any threat to our national security. Catholic groups don't represent any threat to our national security. It's Muslim groups. It's these Muslim student associations. It's groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE. They're the groups that represent a threat to our national security. Had that story from London today about 4 Muslims there planning an attack on a mall in the UK, just like the one that they had in Kenya. There is no reason why we're going to be exempt in America from those kind of attacks. Those represent a threat to our internal tranquility, domestic tranquility, and they're coming not from evangelicals or Christians, they're coming from Muslims. And yet our military, because our president is such an Islamophile, is so sympathetic toward the Muslim cause, is closing a blind eye to where the real threat comes from. All right, Michael, listen, I appreciate that. Let's go to Ted. Ted, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Ted.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to Ted. Ted in Davenport. Ted, welcome. Yeah. Thanks for calling back. So
thanks for having me back.
Yeah, and so I explained the situation with the Underground Railroad.
I heard.
Okay,
yeah.
does that satisfy you?
That explanation does. Yeah. If you want to get more recent, I would actually like to talk about in 2005 when the group called Equality Mississippi publicly spoke out against the AFA for the use of copyrighted images on the AFA website, and its boycott against Kraft Foods for being a sponsor in the 2006 Gay Games in Chicago.
Now, what's your problem there?
How can the AFA not see itself as a hate organization when they kind of go out their way to do that? Some would consider that a hate crime.
Wait. Okay. What's the hate crime? What did AFA do that's a hate crime?
Purposely boycotting one group of people specifically because of their beliefs.
So you think it would be immoral for a group to boycott another group over some kind of disagreement?
I disagree that the question of homosexuality is a moral question at all.
Well, of course it is. But the point is, you think that boycotts are immoral. So in other words, if there was a liberal group, if there was a homosexual group, for instance, that tried to boycott the American Family Association because they disagreed with our stance on homosexuality, then I'm assuming you would criticize them, that you would say to them, look, that's an expression of hatred. You can't do that. That's hatred. Boycotting a group you disagree with, that's hatred. You got to cut that out. You got to stop that. Equality Mississippi, don't boycott the AFA. That's an expression of hate. Can't do it. Is that what you would do?
Well, actually, I would say that their boycott in 2010, when you made statements saying that the Adolf Hitler was a homosexuality, and you concluded by claiming that the Holocaust, which actually included gay victims, by the way,
sure
was
it did.
caused
But Ted,
by homosexuality.
Now, Ted, do you realize that the assertion that Adolf Hitler was a homosexual, that's a matter of history. That's a matter of fact. There's nothing hateful about that. That's simply a statement of fact. Are you aware of a book by a German historian by the name of Lothar Machtan called The Hidden Hitler?
So
no, are you familiar with that book, The Hidden Hitler by Lothar Machtan?
Familiar with German literature? No.
Okay, this guy is a German historian. He's a well-established, highly esteemed German historian. He wrote a book about 10 years ago called The Hidden Hitler, in which he himself said he's not even a Christian. In fact, he did not like the fact that we took the theme of his book and we talked about it on programs like Focal Point. But he said Adolf Hitler, hold it. He said Adolf Hitler was a practicing homosexual. And Ted, we know from history that the Nazi Party was formed in a gay bar in Munich. That's a matter of history. You can read that in the rise and fall of the Third Reich. This is not something that we've made up. This is a matter of historical fact. And we know that the SA, the stormtroopers, Hitler's enforcers, that virtually every single officer in the stormtroopers, Hitler's enforcers, they were homosexuals. Now, Ted, that's just history. That's just historical fact. There's nothing hateful about that. That's simply a statement of fact. Are you saying that the truth is a form of hate?
Why did you bring up the word Christian just now? You just said that he wasn't even a Christian, referring to the German literature.
My point is
Christians hate homosexuals.
Yeah, no, my point is, Ted. My point is, Ted. If I wrote a book like that, you would say to me, well, you're just writing a book like that because you're a Christian and you want to demonize homosexuals. This guy's not a Christian. He wasn't writing to demonize Hitler. He was simply writing good history. And he said it's simply a matter of historical fact that Hitler was a homosexual. All right, does that satisfy you on that?
Yep, that's interesting enough for me. Thank you.
All right, Ted. All right, appreciate the call. Thank you. I appreciate you calling back and extending the conversation. We'll be right back after the news. Focal Point, AFR Talk.